When it comes to popular books like Lost Lambs, overhyped or underrated, that is the question. I am so excited to see what all the hype is about, what some of the mixed reviews might be saying, if there's any credit in the criticism, because I've been saying overall a lot of praise for this, but I just kind of want to see for myself how I feel and how this aligns with my taste, and if it is worth the current hype that it is getting. I know this has kind of complex family themes. I think this follows like 4 different people. I can't wait to devour this. Oh my god! This was not an easy book to get my hands on, let me tell you. Thank you so much to this library for having this. God, it's impossible to find anywhere else. It's crazy. Like anywhere else. On Libby, it's like at minimum a 10-week wait. It took a lot to get here, but let's see if it was worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, oh my god. This is my first impression of Lost Lambs. I'm like halfway through this book, so we are far past like first impressions, but these are the first things that stood out to me that I'd like to highlight. I am gonna try to keep it short and sweet because Lord knows I love a tangent, and then it just gets like, get to the point. So I'm gonna try to keep this under 3 minutes. I have tried and failed before, so we'll see how okay. This book is surrounding a middle-class family with 3 kids, and the parents are at the beginning of exploring an open marriage. This is a very dysfunctional family. Oh my god, I have not seen dysfunction like this in a while, and I think reading about dysfunctional families is so incredibly titillating. Anything family drama, but then also like, oh, our parents don't really know what they're doing and they're kind of trying to find themselves and their own desires and their own value, even at the age of like, I think they're in their 60s or like late 50s. I think it's very interesting to lead three young daughters. So the kids also have their kind of role to play. We have the oldest daughter who is like your typical beautiful, like leads with her looks and kind of sexuality, oldest teenager. Then we have your middle child, who classic quintessential middle child experience, where she literally, I feel like, to sum her up, she is talking to somebody about how she has a dream where she's on fire in like her classroom and nobody like seems to notice or like even care. I have had similar conversations in my own therapist's office. Oh my god, I'm not middle, I'm 4 out of 5, so it's like kind of, anyway, but the middle child sentiment is crazy. And then we have the youngest, who's like a genius, who is understimulated, so she's acting out in like other ways. Anyway, so very interesting, the roles they have to play. I will say I haven't seen middle class dysfunction like this in so long in a book, if ever. I feel like dysfunction and chaos, honestly, from books like this that are popular, most of the time are seen in like lower class or just poor families like in the poverty line, below the poverty line. So it is kind of refreshing to see that like you can have such chaos and have such a ridiculous dynamic within just like the normal middle class. But it's crazy because these people are nuts, they're cuckoo. I kind of feel like they also have a self-awareness to themselves that a lot of chaotic characters don't necessarily have. You know, they just cause chaos and they're not very, introspective, but like incredibly introspective. Oh my god, 27 seconds. Okay, the audio versus the physical. I am reading this half audio, half physical, kind of, because I just don't have time sometimes to just sit down and physically read, so I have to like finish it through Spotify. I will say one of the things that they mentioned is the church is invested with gnats, and so one of the things that the author has done is to include any words that have like an N and that can fit nat, like donated, explanation, naturally, all include nat. I think that's very interesting. Okay, I will have to finish my thoughts because I do want to honor the fact that I set this thing up. Finish my thoughts at the very end of the book. I'm halfway through. Hopefully I can be done soon. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes, I did finish it. Yes, the book is 1 day overdue. Please don't shoot. I'm sorry. I know, dude. If I could read faster, I would. Let's get into the strengths and weaknesses of Lost Lambs. There is one specific weakness that I am actually excited to get into. Not because I like talking about things that are incredibly uncomfortable and people could misconstrue and be dedicated to misunderstanding me, but because I think that what we can take out of controversial topics in books is conversation, is a widened perspective, is critical thought. At least we can do that. Okay, so the weakness, I'm going to get into it, and then the strengths. There are a lot more strengths than this one weakness, but this one weakness, I feel like it's really causing a divide, and you're either on the end of the spectrum of depiction does not equal endorsement, or I really disagree with the coverage of this topic in this book, so much so to where I can't read this author type of a thing. If you disagree with me, feel free, just remain respectful. That's all you have to do. So the weakness in this book is that we have the middle child, Louise, who's just desperate for love, desperate for any sort of identity. And so she falls prey to being in an online relationship with somebody who she doesn't even know their name. She just knows the username is yours truly. She'll talk about this person in the book as yours truly. Yours truly radicalizes her into his extremist religion of Islam. His extremist. Not just general Islamic views, but like extremist Islamic views. So this leads to Luis building kind of like a DIY bomb, and carrying out his kind of will of setting the bomb off in a public area. I will say, of the two sides of the coin this could be on, I am more so of the side that when I read this, I felt uncomfortable and I was offended because the way that we are depicting the Nation of Islam and Muslims still feels like we are punching down. That's just how I feel. Like, I agree with the idea that just because you depict something in your media doesn't mean that you are endorsing it. But to me, I kind of feel like I am thirsty for coverage of anything to do with Muslims, anything to do with the Nation of Islam that is respectful, that is insightful, that is thing that can educate us. I feel like there have been so many harmful views and ideals that so many mainstream stories pick up that it's like we're so used to it that you might not have even found this to be offensive. At the end of the day, the author who included a controversial topic put it there because they feel as though it has some sort of value into the story. It pushes the story forward in some sort of a way, but it doesn't mean that they are conveying their own ideals, their own views. But the way that it just hit me as a reader was just like, we couldn't have chose just like any other religion to radicalize. It doesn't feel like we've done that one to death. So let's get into the strengths. This was interesting because it was incredibly chaotic, like I had mentioned earlier, but chaotic with an authentic feel. I feel like most books that have a little bit of craziness, like an open marriage, 3 wild children, the mom is neglectful at best, an alcoholic probably at worst, substance abuser, like just a mess. It had an authentic feel because, like I said, they're self-aware, and you can also see them for who they are, which are 5 different individuals kind of searching for their value, searching for love, searching for connection, and you are still like rooting for them. They're still kind of likable people, even though their energy is incredibly wild. Another trait that this does well is satire. This was an incredibly satirical story that I really enjoyed. Satire, I feel like, can be really hit or miss, especially with a debut novel. I'm gonna give up on this video. But I like when satire is done well because the wit, quick, so funny, clear. Like, I love it. Humorous, and has so many moments that just stuck with me. Like, one of the characters in this book is named Miss Winkle, and the dad starts dating her, and he's like, why did you name your daughter Perry? And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, your daughter's full name is Perry Winkle. Miss Winkle is like, huh, I never thought of it like that. Stupid, but hilarious. This book was incredibly concise. Let's bring back concise books that just get to the point and wrap up really nicely. The ending was the type of ending that gave me good, warm feelings and left a smile on my face. You know, a book is good when you just are sitting there and just enjoying it, just kind of choosing, even though the rest of the story is not necessarily like feel good, joyful, whatever. But the ending was interesting because it introduced us to one person, but left me with like a little bit of joy. Lastly, I feel like all of the characters were fleshed out pretty well. You see each and every character. You see the dad for who he is. You see his struggles. You see him trying to chase happiness. You see him being a lost lamb and then finding his flock. You see the middle child, Louise, still kind of like lost a little bit, but eventually ends up a little bit happier. There's a lot of journeys that I feel like I could follow and were very concise and made sense. And most of the time throughout books, I get a little bit of fatigue and I'm like, oh my God, can this just end? But I was very happy with the way that all of this wrapped up, and I was happy with how much I was able to root for all of these people, even though they were a mess. So is this overhyped or underrated? Honestly, I feel like this does deserve the hype. Outside of the weakness, which deserves fair criticism. It deserves fair criticism and the conversation that it's starting. I think that this is worth the attention that it's getting because this is the type of a book that you would like to use for your book club book of the month or book of the week or book of whatever. I think this sparks good conversation. I think it has social commentary. And if we are not moving society forward with some social commentary, with book that provide social commentary, then like what are we doing? I feel like this is adding to social commentary. Unfortunately, in a lot of ways negatively. Overall has some other good things that are worth talking about. I think this is worth checking out if you haven't checked it out.
Wow, I forgot to rate it. I do give it a 4 out of 5, and I highly do recommend this if you're interested.
That's all I got. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever time of day it is, I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, or night. Drop down if you have read this book. Drop down if you're not going to read this book and you cannot stand by it. Have an amazing day.